Hey everyone, this is wrestling star, fitness model, commercial actor Anthony Bowens, and you're listening to Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Pro Wrestling Personified Podcast. I'm your host, Louis Carlin, and we're part of the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network. And very excited about my next guest today, very, very special guest. You can see him wrestling for such promotions as WrestlePro. Recently, he was on the Brace for Impact special on Twitch TV, where he defeated Matt McIntosh and Eli Drake. Please help me welcome, I'm going to call him a superstar. Please help me welcome superstar Anthony Bowens. Anthony, welcome to the show, man.
Oh, thank you for having me.
My pleasure, man. First question I got to ask, and I know I was talking to you before we started, watching a number of your matches. I think you're completely incredible, man. Number of matches that I watch. First question is, why aren't you signed to a major promotion? In my opinion, you should be signed already, but why aren't you signed to a major promotion? You should be in Impact or WWE or Ring of Honor right now.
Nah, I have no idea. That's probably a question you probably should ask them.
Yeah,
but,
no, I know.
I'm pretty confident I'll get there at some point.
Yeah, no, I know. There's no real answer to that question, but very, very talented in the ring against, like I said, I saw you against Brian Cage, Matt McIntosh, Tony Nese, Dan Maff. That was a great match. Bobby Wayward. So, great stuff there, man. You're, in my opinion, very, very, very talented, and it's almost shocking that you're not in a major promotion right now. But anyway, let's go back to the beginning. How'd you get interested in professional wrestling and decide that you want to make a career out of it?
Oh, geez. Long story. Let me see if I can condense it. Well, basically, I first got interested in wrestling. I guess I watched it on and off when I was super young. I really don't have much memory of it, apparently. My dad used to watch a lot of wrestling. Apparently, Hogan was on at some point, and he was hulking up. And then my dad said he felt this little tiny fist come across his cheek, and it was me punching him in the face. I had to have been about 2 years old. But my first memory would be I think I was watching WCW on and off, but I just distinctly remember seeing the vignettes for the Hogan Sting Starrcade match when.
Okay.
Sting was like in that, like, what do you call it? It was raining. He was like in an abandoned warehouse, that type of thing. I saw that and I was mesmerized by it, and I was like, wow, this is cool. And then kind of just started from there. I watched WCW like religiously. At the time, my dad wouldn't let me watch WWE because it was a little, I guess they were going into the Attitude Era at that point, and he was kind of like, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And then randomly after I wasn't even begging him to watch it. Just randomly after 2 months, I came home from school one day and there was a VHS tape on the table. It said WrestleMania 14, and I popped that in, and it was all it was off to the races from there. I don't know what changed his mind. I guess he really didn't. I guess he knew I wasn't going to go and copy any of the things that they were doing, so he always trusted me to do stuff like that. So. It was off to the races there. I was just a massive wrestling fan, switching back and forth between the two. And then, I really didn't know that I can be a wrestler, per se. Back then, I was a really shy, scrawny kid. Honestly, had no idea what I'd be doing in my life, obviously, because I was a kid. But as time went on, I started playing baseball. I got really into that. And I played that for 11 years. And then once I hit college, I was supposed to have a fifth year of NCAA eligibility. I decided not to use it. So after 11 years of playing baseball for 5-6 hours a day, being on the field, when you don't have that anymore, you start to go nuts and you have no idea what to do with yourself.
Okay.
And this was 2011, I want to say. So I was 20 years old. So I was trying to figure out something to fill my time, and I just couldn't do it. And then my friends and I happened to make this little wrestling video the night before we had I forgot what hurricane it was, but Nobody was around. It was like the dead of night. We were super bored, and we're like, let's just make a wrestling video. We made one. We threw it up on YouTube, and it actually got a response. And most of the people commenting were saying like, "Hey, Bowen, you actually look like you know what you're doing." And I was like, that was kind of the first thought I've ever had of like, you know what, this can actually be a thing. Maybe I should really like look into becoming a professional wrestler. So I started searching around for schools. At one point, I was going to go up to Lance Storm's school in Canada or go down to FCW at the time, but that wasn't really financially viable. And out of the blue, one day, it was October of 2012, WWE was in the area, and when they were there, they usually go to the gym that I lift at. So once I found that out, I casually just emailed all my professors and said I was sick and I wouldn't be coming in today. And instead of going to class, I went over to the gym, and I went over to just kind of like meet everybody and see if I could take pictures with them, etc. And met a bunch of people, and the last person I saw, and I wasn't going to go up to, was Santino Marella, because he was doing like his abs, and I didn't want to bother him because I tried to be as like respectful as possible.
Sure.
I was like, yeah, screw it, let me go ahead. And I went up to him, like, hey, I can have a photo. And he said, sure, took a photo, and as I was walking away, he stopped me, and my friend who was with me goes, hey, you guys are pretty big. Have you ever thought about becoming professional wrestlers? And I was like, well, that's a coincidence, because I'm looking to find some place to go. And he goes, 1 second. He pulled out his phone, and he gave me the number to Pat Buck, who's the owner and trainer of, which is now WrestlePro. And a week later, I went there, and I was there for 5 minutes at the training session at the school, and I was like, this is absolutely what I want to do for the rest of my life.
So you said you played baseball. I was just curious. Did you stop because you wanted to be a professional wrestler, or what was the reason why you actually stopped playing baseball? I'm not sure. You might have answered that question, but was it because of wrestling, or was it maybe?
Actually, it was because I was hurting. I had tendonitis in my elbow, and playing every day was becoming a chore. So it's funny. I stopped playing because of pain, but then I went to an industry where it's all pain. So. Yeah, it was because I had tendonitis. My goal before that was to play baseball professionally, which I think I could have done, but I couldn't have gone on playing with that with the pain. So, and plus I wasn't having as much fun anymore. College baseball kind of took the whole fun out of everything, and I just needed something new and fresh, and that's what pro wrestling was.
Now you're from New Jersey. I'm originally from Queens, New York. I'm going to ask. You a Met fan growing up, or you a Yankee fan? Who was your team?
I'm actually a San Francisco Giants fan.
San Francisco Giants. How did that happen? You're in New Jersey. You should be a Mets or Yankees fan. How did that happen?
Well, I was watching are you a Mets fan?
I'm a Mets fan.
Queens,
Yeah, I'm a Mets fan.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you remember the division series in 2000 when they played the Giants and JT Snow hit that game-tying home run off of Armando Benitez.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that, but I was watching that game and I was like, whoa! I was 9 years old. I was like, wow, the Giants are cool. Okay. And then the next year, Barry Bonds started hitting like 9,000 home runs, and I was like, this is the team. So I've been a fan of them for the last 18 years.
Okay, yeah, I grew up about a mile from Shea Stadium, so I just had to be a Mets fan. Okay. My dad would take me there all the time, but yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. The Giants being the Mets, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
No problem.
This will be the end of the podcast now. So thanks for joining. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, so how would your family feel? How did your family? I know I've spoken to a number of wrestlers, and some of them, their family is supportive. Some of them, they tell me the families weren't so supportive. But how did your family feel when you told them that, hey, I want to be a professional wrestler? Were they supportive of your decision?
Yeah, my parents usually support anything that I do. Like with the baseball, they were up and down the road traveling to all my games and all that stuff like that. And then once wrestling came around and I told them how much I wanted to do this, they're like, all right, well, just go. My mom had some reservations about it for maybe the first week or two, mostly because she didn't want me to get hurt. But when she came to her first show, and she kind of grew up watching the wrestling with me because I made her watch it. I made her take me to all the shows. That she saw how much I enjoyed it, and She's like, yeah, just go for it.
All right, cool.
As long as you get a college degree.
All right, and you did get that though, right? You got your college degree.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. See, I kind of had to leave college before I got my college degree, but that's a whole nother story. We don't have to go into that.
Well, that's all right. I'll go back.
Yeah, no, of course. So I'm getting old. I'm a lot older than you right now. So yeah, I think you're 27 or 28 years old. I was I was 21 when you were born, so I'm a lot older than you. So,
okay.
I remember Bruno Sammartino. That's how I got into wrestling. My grandfather got me into Bruno Sammartino, so I was in the whole Bob Backlund era. So, I've been watching since 1978. Okay. I've been a fan, and
oh wow,
yes. So I guess it's never too late. I guess I could go back, and maybe I could go back, and maybe I could contact Pat Buck and Dan Maff and get trained to be a professional wrestler. What do you think?
You never know.
Yeah, I could take a bump at 50, right?
I mean, yeah, we have we did have a guy who managed. I think he was like 55, 56. He was bumping all over the place, going through tables and stuff. He was a beast. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll contact him right after we're done, and I'll start my training. And I'm coming for you first, Anthony.
I'll be waiting.
Okay. So who were some of your favorites growing up? I know you mentioned Sting and Hogan before, but who were some of your other favorites growing up?
Sting was my guy, and then when I was younger, I was a big Jeff Hardy fan, specifically because I was super shy, and he was very out there and all about being yourself and not giving a crap what other people thought of you. So I always admired that. So that's what kind of drew me to him. And then as time went on, I got older and I started appreciating the performance aspect of it more. Guys like Jericho and Eddie Guerrero, Shawn Michaels. I don't really have a favorite per se, but those are the people I enjoy watching on a consistent basis.
Okay, yeah, Shawn Michaels, big Shawn Michaels fan. I love Bret Hart growing up. Roddy Piper also was one of my guys. But onto the training. You said you trained Pat Buck and Dan Maff, and so what was the training like with them? I know Dan Maff seemed like he could be very, very tough. But what was that? What was the training like, and what was it like taking your first bump? I mean, when you took your first bump, were you like, "Oh, I could do this," or were you like, "Uh-oh, this is going to be a lot tougher than I thought it was going to be"?
Well, my main trainer is Pat Buck.
Okay.
I had a lot of influences from other people, such as Dan Maff and Kurt Hawkins and Mario Boccara, those people. First, oh God, I haven't been asked that question in a while. First bump. I do remember being in a lot of pain before the first bump because the first day I joined, they were moving the ring from one building to a new location at the time because Hurricane Sandy blew up the rec center. So they had to move everything, and I was trying to be extra helpful on my first day, and I went on the ring truck to move the ring post, and it slipped and landed on my foot. And I could have swore that I broke two of my toes, but I guess they're just very swollen. So, that wasn't a great way to start before I even got in the ring. Then bumping was rough. Hitting the ropes was also surprisingly rough because, it's just metal cable with basically a rubber hose around it.
Yeah, sure.
And the first week I was limping all over the place. I had bruises all over my back from the ropes. It was pretty rough. But, your body eventually becomes calloused to it. It doesn't mean it stops hurting, but you just kind of get used to it. And training itself was, any kind of wrestling training, it's rough. It's a ton of cardio. You're beat up. You're tired. You're trying to push through things. It was much harder than the conditioning and stuff that we did as a Division I athlete in college. And we were, as a baseball team, we kind of ran more than the actual track team did. And there were some very, very rough times, but it couldn't even compare to some of the stuff we did wrestling-wise. So it's pretty rough. It's fun, but it's rough.
Sure, I can imagine. A lot of people think it's easy to do that, but it's very, very difficult. And but I can imagine how difficult it's running. I mean, running the ropes. Like you said, you got all bruised running the ropes, so it's very, very difficult. The initial training. So how long did you train for until you realized that, hey, I'm ready for my first match? Was it a couple of months, or how long did it take for you to have your first match?
Honestly, my first match was about a month in.
Wow.
It
Okay.
was what the hell was it? Yeah, it was about a month in. I remember Pat goes, "Hey, do you have any gear?" I was like, "No." He goes, "Get gear. You're ready for like a battle royal type thing." On the
Okay.
first student show, I was like, "Oh my god!" Um, and I remember the morning pretty clear because usually I'm pretty confident with things, but I had so much anxiety about going out there that I thought I wouldn't be able to do this. Like I was almost to the point where I was throwing up. And
Okay.
basically all it was is actually it was with Tony Nese. Nese had a match against one of the students who was there already for 6 months, and then he put a beat down on him. And then the newer students were to come out to make the save, and it would transition into the main event battle royal. So that was a month.
Okay.
Then my first actual physical match, like on the main shows, was about I want to say 3 or 4 months in. January, February, March. Yeah, 3 months in. So I picked up the physical aspect of it very fast. Psychology wise, we're all still learning as we go on, but I found that to be the hardest part of everything until one day everything just kind of clicked and everything started to make sense. I knew it at the basic level, obviously, but I can't I can't remember when that was. And that might have been maybe around the 8-9 month mark where I
Okay.
really started to understand the psychology of everything. But physically, I picked up everything very quickly.
So you actually threw up on your first night. Is that you threw up? You said threw
Oh,
up numerous times, or was it once? Or
no, I
because I could
almost
imagine.
threw up. I
Oh, you
held it in.
almost threw up. Okay. Okay.
I felt like I had to throw up.
No, yeah, because I was going to ask you for if you had any like funny stories in your first year. Because I was interviewing another wrestler yesterday, a guy up here in Canada, and he told me his first match. He was so nervous when they announced him. He grabbed the curtain as he was going to walk through to the ring, but he pulled it right off, and the whole thing came tumbling down because he was so anxious to get out
um,
there. He just grabbed the curtain as he was about to walk through to the ring, and he just pulled the whole thing down. And I think there was a little steel structure came down as well. So and I was just like, you threw up. That's hilarious also, but you didn't throw up. You almost threw up. So,
I almost threw
but
up. Yeah.
yeah, so I can imagine it must have had huge butterflies going through your stomach. But the first year, you mentioned you were learning the psychology. Um, like, was there a specific wrestler in the first year that you would study more than others to because you wanted to I don't know, maybe model your career after a specific wrestler, or try to steal a little bit of what they're doing? But was there a specific wrestler in the first year, or wrestlers that you would study more than others?
Not particularly. I think I kind of learned through osmosis in the sense of I would almost have matches at training to the point where I was like killing myself. I don't know if you're familiar with the Heavenly Bodies.
Yes.
Um, the Mark Carino, who's one half of the Heavenly Bodies, he's one of my better friends in the business.
Okay.
He would force me at the time to have matches, sometimes 3 or 4 matches after training when nobody else wanted to get back in the ring. And we do it over and over and over again. And then I think just through that process of having all those matches and listening to him and figuring out what he was doing and having the quality of trainers that we have kind of throwing things at me, the more I started to do that, the more I started to see and understand what they were saying until one day the light bulb just went off and I was like, oh, I get this now. Again, but on the most basic level, but at least I get where I need to be going, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely, absolutely, man. So, like, what did you do? I mean, your first year, you want to get your name out there, you want to promote yourself. How did you go about doing that? You just contacting promoters. What did you do to get your name out there in the first year?
Just working as much as I can wherever I could. And every weekend I was trying to go somewhere. I was always um, emailing promoters, trying to see if there's any spots, showing up to shows when you aren't booked just to see if maybe you'd be able to get on. That's basically the way you go about it. There's no other really, unless you know somebody that's going to get you in everywhere. That's kind of typically what you do in general, is just try and, I don't want to say whore yourself out, but just get as many places as possible.
No, I understand, man, and yeah, I don't know if whore yourself out. Maybe that's a that's a poor, might have the poor choice of words, but no, I understand. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a poor choice of words, but that's I don't know, that popped into my head.
No, that's okay. That's cool, man. They popped into your head. Just go with it, man. Go with it, man. So early on, you were part of a faction called the Untouchables. I think Bobby Wayward was involved, Chris Payne. How did that all come about? Did they just put a few of the young stars together and to form the faction, or how did that whole faction form?
So basically, it got to the point where the four of us we didn't really have characters. We were, I guess, the top of the class students-wise, and we were trying to find spots on the card. And at the time, it wasn't WrestlePro. It was the company was Pro Wrestling Syndicate, and we were having some of the bigger shows on the East Coast, and there were all these names coming in, so spots were very, very, very limited. So we had to figure out something that would make us stand out. And the four of us had one common thing, which was we didn't really have character. We were good enough to be on all these main shows, and we didn't want to be known as students anymore because we felt like we were getting beyond that. So we banded together and we kind of had a group powwow, and the name Untouchables came up. Like, that makes sense. We think our work is untouchable as far as all the students. Our attitude and everything else was untouchable. It just kind of was a natural thing that kind of, I don't know, everything just worked out perfectly. So we banded together and it became the Untouchables for, I think, 2.5, maybe 3 years.
Okay, yeah, it was about, I think, 2015. Maybe did the faction end, or I know it was a few years.
I believe it was the end of the end of 2015. We kind of officially disbanded, and then Wayward and I feuded for a very long while.
Any chance we're going to see an Untouchable reunion anytime soon, or is that completely done?
I think it's completely done. I think it would be fun if we kind of teased it from time to time just to see how people would react, because I think it would get a reaction. But as of now, we're all just complete singles guys going around, making our own path.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was just curious. I know the faction was around. Just wondering if maybe we'll see maybe a one-time reunion. Maybe somebody will come in, and save the other from an attack. But that's cool. You guys are all doing great on your own anyway. So especially you and Bobby Wayward and Chris Payne. But as a wrestler, you're learning your craft. Like, how did you come up with some of your signature moves? Is it something? Do you practice? Do you sit down and think about what my finisher would be, or does it just come over time with experience? But how do you come up with some of your signature moves?
Yeah, things just come over time. Sometimes you might see something and you go, "Oh, that's kind of cool. How could I make this my own?" You could tweak it, and it becomes your own. My finishing move, which I now call the Dragon Dagger, which is the knee to the face, which you saw on the brace for Impact. I saw, obviously Morrison used to do a version of it, but I saw somebody in Japan, I forgot who it was, and I was watching it, and he did the move, and it was so vicious, and it was so, it was just this huge visual, and I was like, wow, if I can do it exactly like that guy, this could be a very cool finish, and I can use it on just about anybody. I don't have to worry about picking people up that are, 3 times my size or anything like that. Yeah. I can literally get anyone at any size down to the ground and just knee him as hard as I can in the face. So that's where that came from.
Okay, yeah, that's devastating move. So like we were talking before, if I go to get trained by Pat Buck and Dan Maff, and we do have a match, can you promise not to use the Dragon Dagger on me?
Well, I got to win, so I can't really make
Oh
that
yeah,
promise.
what I'll do is the bell ring and I'll lay down and then you could I'll just give you the quick victory. I don't want to take a Dragon Dagger. Oh man. Oh man. So 2014, you won your first title. That must have been a great feeling winning your first title. So what was it like after you got the win and you get to raise the title over your head? Like I said, it must have been a great feeling.
I kind of erased that one from my memory banks because I'm not particularly a fan of the organization
Okay. I
that
apologize.
I
I
was
didn't
with
know.
there. No, it's cool. It's cool. But in a very subtle way, it was kind of cool because it was my first year in wrestling, or was it 2014? Excuse me, second year in wrestling. And it was in my hometown. It was the first time my grandmother my grandmother came to see me wrestle. So the moment was special. I just wish it would have been under different circumstances. So I really consider my first title win to be my first WrestlePro title, which was in
Okay.
2016. That one I hold a
Okay.
little bit near and dear to my heart because, for the longest while I was hoping to be the standard bearer for everybody who came through WrestlePro and to have them trust me enough to run with the title and work all these outside people. I thought was pretty cool and fulfilling.
Okay, so WrestlePro, I guess you'll call WrestlePro your home promotion. Is that fair to
Yeah,
say?
that's my home base.
Sure, sure. So what you've been there for? So I'm assuming the experience with WrestlePro has been fantastic. You've had they have some really really good talent at WrestlePro. But I'll ask the question: what has the experience been like working for WrestlePro?
It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
a fun. It's always a fun atmosphere. We're super lucky that we're based at the Roe Rec Center, which is a fantastic facility and usually draws a big crowd. So we get spoiled sometimes because not that there's anything wrong working in front of 100 or 200 people, but every month we go out there, we have at least 600 to however many. Like the Praise for Impact, I think it was like 1,000 or something. So we're pretty lucky in that aspect, and it's almost like a family atmosphere in the locker room too. So you're always very comfortable going into show day. And that's not to say every place else is like that, because everywhere that at least I've been have had amazing locker rooms. But and I guess there's no place like home.
Yeah, like I said, they have incredible talent there. Dan Maff, Bobby Wayward. I'm a big fan of Matt McIntosh as well. They have a lot of talent there.
As
Great,
am
great
I.
promotion. You had a tremendous match with Matt McIntosh. I was watching. I don't. This match was over. A bunch of guys with masks came out and attacked you, and I think the referee. I don't know. Wasn't sure what was quite going on there, but the match between you and McIntosh was absolutely fantastic. Lots of great talent there. Now let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about WWE, because I know you had a little bit of experience with the WWE. I know you had a tryout with the Arnold Classic for NXT, and I think it was an open tryout. You teamed with, and I'm sorry if I get his name wrong, Jonathan Ortega against the Authors of Pain on NXT. And I didn't know that you were Rosebud. I read that you were Rosebud. Is that true for Adam Rose?
So I've done a lot of things under the radar for WWE. Back when I
Okay.
was, like, I shouldn't even say back, when like a couple years ago, doing stuff with the company, you had to keep very hush hush. Now,
Okay.
they post the list of who were at the tryouts and all the background about them. Back then, you couldn't do it. You had to keep hush hush. So everything kind of just flew under the radar. So yeah, I was in 2014. I was a Rosebud, which was my first experience doing anything with the company. I had an absurd weekend there, which I can't really share, but it
Okay.
was
That's
a
fine.
very good experience, and it led me to have my first tryout at the Arnold Classic in 2000, I think March of 2015.
Okay.
So I had the tryout there, and then that went well enough that they invited me down to the Performance Center later on in the year, and I did the 3-day tryout there. And then outside of tryout-based stuff, I did all the Tough Enough promo commercial IDs, which if you go back and you see all the transition stuff in between, like the people lifting weights and all the other crap, that was me. I was in the Money in the Bank Dream Sequence in 2015.
Wow.
I
Okay.
don't know if you remember that, but if you went back and watched it, you know what I meant.
Okay.
It was a gladiator for Charlotte at the first women's Hell in the Cell match against Sasha Banks, and then the most recent thing was the NXT match, which you just spoke of, against Authors of Pain. And Johnny Vandal, or Johnny Ortega, he goes by a couple different names, was
Okay.
my tag partner.
Okay. I
So yeah,
know.
I've done a decent amount of things.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I didn't know you were a Rosebud, but you've done a lot more than the things that I mentioned. And I know Ortega, he kind of got power bombed on you, and that looked like he really hit you kind of hard. Did that like knock the wind out of you? Because that looked like he came down hard on you when he was power bombed on you against the Authors of Pain.
Yeah, so basically everybody blamed AOP and all over the place. It wasn't really their fault because, one, you can't really see where the guy's coming down, obviously, because there's a man in front of your face. He did powerbomb me onto my chest, which was the way it's supposed to be, but I think I've watched it numerous amount of times. I think what happened is a wrestler's instinct of when they're falling down is to smack his arms out to kind of brace and for the impact. Brace for impact, no pun intended.
Sure.
So his natural instinct as a wrestler coming down is to throw his arms out to break his fall. And I think as that was happening, his elbow caught me square in the face, which is what knocked me. I went unconscious for a little bit. I completely blacked out. And then I woke up when they had me in the Russian leg sweep position when they were about to hit the finish. And then the referee realized that I was just in complete la-la land and stopped the match.
Okay, but were you out for a little bit? Did you have to take some time off, or because were you okay after you woke up, or because it looked really bad? I was watching that match again today. I was like, oh my god, I forgot about that. But that looked really, really bad. But did you have to take some time off for that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it looked worse than what it was. I was definitely knocked loopy for a good probably 30 minutes afterwards, but after that 30-minute time period, I was pretty much fine. I was a little bit hazy, but other than that, I was fine. Like, actually, I was reading like dirt sheet reports about where I was going, and I was in an ambulance, and I was at the local hospital, and I was this, and I was in Florida for a week, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm literally sitting at the airport waiting to go home.
Okay.
So I went for a test at the Performance Center the next day, and everything was okay. They held me an extra day for precautionary measures, and then I was home by, I think, that Friday, so like 2 days later. And I took a month and a half off, or a little bit, I think maybe about 2 months off, and then I came back at the end of January against Drew McIntyre.
Okay. Yeah, I was watching that match as well. That was actually another good match. That was what promotion was for what
Battle
pro
Club
culture?
Pro.
WrestlePro. Okay.
Battle Club Pro for the What Culture title.
Oh, that's right. Okay, for the what I know the What Culture title. What Culture was in there somewhere. But that was another good match with Drew McIntyre. I think he was going by Drew Galloway. That was
actually a debacle because it was Drew Galloway at the time, but we were given 20 minutes for that match for the main event, and there's a rule in New York City where if your show isn't done by 11 p.m., if there's a commissioner there, or the athletic commission, if they're there, they'll stop the show and they'll completely shut it down. Okay. And every match that night went overtime, so as we were walking out, I think it was about 10:47, and the promoter comes in and he goes, guys, I'm going to shut the show down if you don't end by 11.
Okay.
And this is literally as my music is hitting. So I'm like, wait, what? He goes, well, yeah, you had 20 minutes, now you have 8. So like, what am I supposed to do? Like, 13 minutes, like, we planned for 20 minutes, obviously. So as I'm walking in, he's like, yeah, you got 10 minutes. 8 minutes. I was like, oh my God. And I'm then running out to the ring, like, freaking out, like, what am I going to do? And then Drew comes out, and he's got that serious face on, but you can tell his, like, mind is, like, racking to try and figure out what we should do. So we just start well, it looks like we were screaming at each other, but we were yelling, "Oh my God, what's going to happen? What should we do?" He goes, "Oh, I don't know. Take a boot." Boom. That's when you see him boot me in the face. And we ended up, I think the ending bell rang at 10:58, so we ended right on the nose.
Okay, that's
or
cool,
almost
man.
right on the nose.
That was a good story, man. Like, what are we gonna do? I don't know. What are we gonna do? And you didn't throw up, did you? You didn't throw up at all, did you? No, I'm just kidding.
No puking.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. So you wrestled internationally as well. I think I was reading an interview online that you wrestled in the UK. Was that
Correct.
yeah? So what was that experience like wrestling in the UK, and does it differ much from wrestling in the US?
So it was probably one of the best experiences of my life. I went over. It was the first time I ever experienced I guess, touring per se. A lot of companies over there don't just have shows like once or twice a month like they do over here. There's a few companies over there that actually have touring shows and tour almost as much as WWE. And this particular one does, LDN Wrestling. And it was a week and a half of every single night, a different part of the country, 2 matches a night, and incredible venues. A lot of the venues over there are differ from here because here, like, you have like the small shows will be at VFF hall, or what do we call it? Is that they called VF halls? Other shows being like high school gyms and stuff like that. These were like in legit theaters, almost kind of like what you would see like a Broadway or something like that.
Okay.
And you'd be working to just one side, and there's a massive crowd. And a lot of it was a lot of it I learned, or I got better as a performer because a lot of it was on the fly. The first match, you barely had time to set up because you were setting up the entire, theater with the ring and all that. You have to go out there and call a match half on the fly, or he would put you in the situation. The promoter's also the ring announcer, so he'll wait till you get to the ring. He goes, "Oh, I need a 3-minute promo. Go." And then you just have to think of something on the spot, just freestyle everything, which promos were a weakness of mine, at least at the time, and that made me better as a performer. And then later on in the night, you would have like this big 8-man tag main event, which all of that was on the fly too. So you're working 2 matches a night, always having your brain constantly going in front of different crowds in different parts of the country. So it was probably some of the best times of my life.
Which promotion was it out there that you wrestled for?
LDN Wrestling.
LDN. Okay. All right. So I'm sorry. You might have mentioned but how long were you there for? Did you mention how long you were there for?
About 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay. Wow. So any plans of going back to the UK or?
I was actually supposed to go back and be there for a month. A little bit over a month. I was going to go work with them. I was going to work with a few companies in Wales, and then I was in talks with places like Over the Top in Ireland and WXW in Germany. However, real life caught up to me because at the time I was also working a job at Major League Baseball Network, which pays the bills outside of helped pay bills outside of wrestling. And I pretty much said, "Hey, I need a month and a half off." And they said, "Okay, have fun wrestling, but you won't have a job when you come back."
Okay,
so I was like, "Oh." Yeah. It was the first time where real life and wrestling kind of, came at a crossroads, and I had to figure out what to do.
Sure.
And in this case, I unfortunately had to cancel the tour and, work to kind of pay the bills and wrestle locally.
Sure.
Which
Sure.
I don't regret much, but I kind of wish I kind of just told him to, go someplace and went over anyway. But, hindsight is 20/20.
Sure, no, I got you. I'm sure there'll be other opportunities to go out there. What about Canada? You ever any interest in coming up here to Canada? I live in Canada now. I'm up in the Toronto area. But any interest in wrestling in Canada, or have you wrestled in Canada?
I have once. It wasn't for a specific promotion, but the GNC like bodybuilding super show had a at the convention center over there, right underneath the CN Tower.
Okay, sure.
They had the bodybuilding convention there, and they also happened to have wrestling. And I think myself, Wayward, and two others went up there to wrestle for like 2 or 3 days there. But that was my only experience with Canada.
Oh wow, when was that? Because that's like I could have been there like in a half an hour. Was it recently or when did that take place?
I was, God, my memory's awful. Either 2014 or
Oh, so yeah.
2015.
Okay, a few years ago.
Yeah, it was a
Okay.
couple of years ago.
Okay. What about Japan? Any interest in? I know wrestling is huge in Japan. You got New Japan Pro Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Noah. Any? I'm sure if they called you, you'd go. But you have to think about wrestling out there.
Well, yes. My two main goals, and whichever one comes first, I really don't mind, are WWE and Japan. I absolutely would love to wrestle over there. I know it's super hard to get into without having the right connections and stuff like that. So I'm trying to figure out that end of things. But honestly, I think WWE is more of a possibility first before Japan. But yeah,
Japan.
I would if I had the opportunity to.
So that would be the ultimate goal then, WWE or Japan.
Correct.
Okay. Alrighty. Now you wrestled recently on 2 weeks ago, Brace for Impact, the Brace for Impact show against Eli Drake and Matt McIntosh, which great match. Probably my favorite match on the whole show. But so were you nervous at all? I mean, I know you've been wrestling for a number of years, but I'm sure you still get nervous. But was there any nerves thinking that I'm going to be on Twitch TV and there's going to be thousands upon thousands of people watching? I don't want to mess up. So was there any butterflies in the stomach before that match started? Because it's going to be on the Twitch Impact Wrestling channel.
Honestly, no.
Yeah.
That original feeling that I got, I never really had again. On occasion, I will get a butterfly here or there, but at this point, I'm kind of so I'm very confident in myself at this point, so I'm more excited to hurry up and get out there as opposed to, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen, this, that, and the other thing. When I have big opportunities like this, the only anxiety I have is I need to get out there as fast as I can, and I want to show people what I can do. So I wouldn't say I was nervous per se, more so as I was excited.
Like I said, terrific match, and just was there any interest at all on the part of Impact Wrestling, possibly to bring you on maybe to a TV taping or something that you can mention? Because like I said earlier when we first started, I can't believe you're not signed to a major promotion, but was there any interest on Impact's part on, hey, maybe we could bring you to a TV taping and have you on a couple of shows?
I can honestly say there was no talks. Honestly,
Okay.
I don't think they really spoke to anyone because a lot of it was there's a lot going on during show day, so to be able to sit down and have all these conversations is not really something that goes on too much.
Okay.
Maybe we'll be in contact soon. I have no idea. What I usually say is you'll never know where I pop up because things randomly come along and. You never know what the future holds. Honestly, though, going back to the tryout from 2015, I think if I had gone in there and blown them away with a promo, because I think that was the only thing that hurt me, I would have been down there already. During those 3 days, I couldn't have done anything better physically, because I was prepared in every way, shape, or form going into that thing, and I honestly, I'm very real with myself. If I'm good at something, I'll say it. If I'm bad at something, I'll say it. And back then, being a year and a half, 2 years into the business, I was very shy, and I pretty much blew it on the on the promo section. So I think if I had gone down there and just absolutely, killed it on that aspect, you'd probably already see me on a takeover or something like that.
Okay, there you go. Fair enough. Well, we'll see you. You'll get there. You'll get there soon enough. I'd be very surprised if you're not there at some point this year, to be honest. But
Well, thank you.
in addition to professional wrestling, you're also a model as well. Is that I saw that on your Twitter page. So you're a model. You were on the Attitude cover. So how did that come about? Getting on the cover of Attitude magazine.
I guess I use the term loosely, model and commercial actor.
Okay.
I'm signed to I have an agency in New York City, BMG, which usually sends me out on a bunch of like acting type castings and modeling stuff. I don't have like a crazy resume, but I'm starting to build on it now.
Okay.
I did the amateur wrestling line for Under Armour. I recently or last year did a commercial for Optimum Online, which is tri-state area's leading cable and internet service provider. I just did a national commercial for Lunchables, and then I don't know if you watched the Super Bowl, but I was supposed to be, or I was there, the commercial with Eli Manning and Odell Beckham when they were dancing with each other. Basically was casted to be the people dancing behind them until we jobbed out to the to the actual Giants linemen.
Okay.
So I have that on my resume, and then just did landed the cover of Attitude magazine, which is an LGBT lifestyle magazine over in the UK.
Okay. Yeah, I saw the Optimum app commercial on your YouTube page. I didn't see the Lunchable commercial. Just is there a place I could see that? I'm curious. Do you eat a whole bunch of Lunchables, or how do they what is that commercial all about? I'd love to see that commercial. Like I said, I saw the Optimum app commercial. But is that on your YouTube page as well? The Lunchable commercial?
Not on my YouTube page, but it's up some. I can send it to you once we end this.
Sure.
I'll DM that to you.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. Now you're in tremendous physical condition. How do you train? And I know you said before we did the podcast you were training, but how often do you train? And to maintain that physique, you must train every day or lift weights every day. Or why don't you take us through one of your training regimens?
Well, I lift 5 to 6 days a week, depending on what my schedule is. Sometimes I have to cut it down to 4 because I'm busy, or I just feel like garbage and I think I need a break. But yeah, 5 to 6 days a week, about an hour and a half to 2 hours a day. I try to, without getting overly complicated, I try to just isolate my muscles in the sense of it's dependent on each person. Some people go in, they do a full body workout. I like to do specific body parts for specific days. So one day I'll do biceps, another day I'll do triceps, another day I'll do specifically chest or shoulders, legs, etc. And afterwards, I always try to and something new. I used to hate cardio, but I really implement cardio now, at least 30 to 40 minutes, no more than that, at least 3 or 4 times a week. And once I started doing that, a lot of the extra fat started melting off, and then I became a lot more lean. Because at one point I was doing a lot of heavy lifting, and I ballooned up to like 220 pounds, and I looked big, but I much prefer being able to move a lot more, because when you're bigger, you lose a lot of your mobility and your speed. And after doing all the cardio and stuff like that, I went back down to, I think after like 5 or 6 months, I went back down to 200 pounds, and now I feel great because I kept some of that size. I burned off all the fat. I'm not tired in the ring. I'm moving a lot better. I just feel a lot healthier. Sorry, I go off in tangents sometimes and ramble off your original question.
Go ahead. No, I was just asking about your training regimen, but that's fine. That's fine, man. So basically, if you were involved in a 60-man Ironman match, you'd be able to get through it, okay?
I think I'd be able to do it at this point. I'd probably get to around the 40-minute mark before I start like going.
I could probably do a 2-minute Ironman. I could probably do I could probably do a 2-minute Iron Man match. That would be my limit right there. 2 minutes and the match will be over. Whoever scores the most pins and submissions within 2 minutes would win the match. So that's what I would do with a 2-minute Iron Man match. I'm sorry. I think I cut you off. I think you were saying something.
I don't remember what I was about to say.
Okay. All right.
So
Cool.
it's okay.
All right. So I was going to ask a few more questions, and then we'll wrap this up. I just want to know who. I know you wrestled a lot of top talent, as I mentioned, Brian Cage. You mentioned Drew McIntyre, Dan Maff, Tony Nese, Matt McIntosh. So who would you say are some of your favorite opponents that you've gone against?
Really everyone that you mentioned. I think it would be. Oh no, this is rough. It might be a toss up between McIntosh and Dan Maff, and then a runner up would be Wayward because we've had so many matches together. Maff is a guy who, I really look up to because he's he shows such aggression in the ring, and he was the person who really brought that out of me when I was younger. When I first started having a lot of my matches, I was good, but then a lot of my strikes and stuff like that wasn't believable. And I remember one day I was like, "Hey, Maff, can you watch my match?" He was like, "Sure." And I came back and he goes, "Oh, the match was good, but I was a little disappointed." I was like, "Oh my God, what do you mean?" He goes like, "Your strikes, they just weren't aggressive. They weren't, they weren't believable." And I was like, "Oh," it was kind of like disappointing, like your parents or something. It just broke my heart. And from that moment on, I made sure that everything I did looked and sounded great. And being in the ring with him to kind of apply everything that he's taught me against him and have him give that right back to me is, I don't even know how to explain it. It's incredible. He's somebody who will, if you're going through the motions with something or you're cruising along, he'll wake you up really, really quickly with one of those chops. And it just forces you to go into another zone. So I love wrestling Danny Maff. And same thing with McIntosh. He's so good in the ring, so smooth. You really have to step up your game when you're in there with him.
Yeah, again, back to the Brace for Impact. That was a great showcase for you guys. The Johnny Impact versus Dan Maff match. That was really good. And of course, you and McIntosh and Bobby Wayward against Teddy Hart. So that was a lot of great talent, like I said, in WrestlePro. A lot of really, really good, a lot of excellent talent there. And talking about favorite opponents, now let's go to dream opponents. Who are some of your dream opponents that you like to face that you haven't faced yet? Or if you haven't.
It's always hard for me to answer that question because I just want to. One will never happen, which is HBK because he's not coming out of retirement. I guess AJ Styles would be my answer now, or Kenny Omega. Those two are considered the best in the world, and I would love to see how I would fare against them. And I know I would succeed, but I want to look it back on video and have proof of it. So I think it would have to be those two.
So you're saying that you would defeat Kenny Omega if you guys went 1-on-1? Is that when you say by succeeding you would defeat him?
I am 100% saying that. So Kenny, if you're listening.
Okay. I'll when we're done, I'm going to give Kenny Omega a call. I'm going to let him know what you said. Okay. So
actually, he played a big part of changing it to. Actually, now that I think about it, you asked earlier about movesets. I was actually struggling to figure out a good one, and when Kenny came back to New Jersey, he's good friends with Kevin Matthews. He swung by the school, and we kind of worked matches in front of him, and he pulled me aside and gave me a lot of great advice. And one of the things was, about moveset, and that talk that I had with him kind of led me to taking the path moveset-wise that I'm on now. So I actually have to thank him for that.
Okay, there you go. And you mentioned another guy that who was doing really well right now in Impact, Kevin Matthews, KM. Big fan of Kevin Matthews. Big fan of KM. I love his character on Impact. Hopefully, though, I haven't seen him in a few weeks. Hopefully they're not gonna bury him. I hope we'll see him again soon because I love I love his bully character. So hopefully we'll see him again
I
soon.
think I think he's a future Impact champion.
So do I. So do I. A big fan. His match against Lashley was really, really good. So hopefully let's give him that big push. And I know we're talking about, I know this is Anthony Bowens' time, but there's one more wrestler I got to mention, Falaba. I'm a big fan of Falaba as well. Another very, very talented
Fallow's
wrestler.
one of my best friends in the business, and I'm so happy for the success that he's having. It's way overdue.
Yeah, I'm good. It's glad to see him get that push. I know he was teaming with Bokara for a bit, and I think Bokara got injured and he's out for a bit. But I'm glad Bob's getting that singles run. Really, really deserves it. But before we wrap this up, anything you want to plug? Any upcoming shows? Anything on social media? Any T-shirts you have available? Anything you want to plug? Go right ahead. It's all yours.
Yeah, sure. If you're interested in knowing more about Anthony Bowens, you can follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Bowens_official. You can find my matches on YouTube. All you have to do is just type in my name. And then we also have a separate kind of more entertainment channel, which is if you type in Michael and Anthony, that should pop up too. And you can find me March 3rd at Battle Club Pro in Richfield Park, March 9th in Union, New Jersey, WrestlePro, and then March 10th in Brooklyn, New York, WrestlePro. I'll be taking on Suicide and Bobby Wayward.
All right, there you go. So that's Suicide from Impact, formerly of Impact.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Well, there you go. All right. So again, just want to say I think you're extremely talented. I think like I said, I think you'll be in NXT or Impact within the next few months, and future superstar. And wish you nothing but the best of luck in the future. And thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And anytime you want to come back, if you have anything on your mind you want to talk about, if you want to talk about throwing up again, feel free to give me a call, and you can be on anytime, man.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Well, this has been the Pro Wrestling Personified podcast, part of the Tap Out Wrestling Podcast Network. Again, I want to thank my guest, Anthony Bowens, today. And until next time, thank you very much, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye. And as always, stay safe. Bye-bye.